It's Friday, September 29, and this is your Barbados Day Morning News Update. I'm Kamar Jordan. Good morning. Well, political hopeful Patrick Tannis appears set to walk away from the ruling Democratic Labour Party and into the fold of the opposition Barbados Labour Party. Mr. Tannis, who was dumped by the DLP more than 5 months ago as the party's candidate in the St. Michael East constituency, announced on Facebook this week that he will be joining the BLP. Mr. Tannis, who was replaced by Ronnie Grant back in April, reported then that he'd learned of the DLP's decision via the media. Barbados Day understands that Mr. Tannis has sent a brief note to the DLP General Secretary George Pilgrim and to Prime Minister Frendel Stewart, informing them of his decision to break ranks. When asked about the move, BLP leader Mia Motley declined to comment yesterday, saying she was not dealing with political matters. Stick with fixing the economy and stop attacking me. That's the message General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Tony Moore, has issued to Finance Minister Chris Sinclair. Her comments come after Mr. Sinclair took issue with the BWU boss, who raised concern that government had granted cost-less concessions while the company was trying to stop its workers from being unionized. In a strong response last weekend, Mr. Sinclair disclosed that the BWU General Secretary was granted concessions to acquire a Mercedes-Benz. However, Mrs. Moore told Barbados Today the minister should spend less time drawing a connection between the union's top model vehicle and more time on the near millions cost-less was able to save as a result of concessions given to them. She also suggested that Sinclair should spend more time updating the country on the recent Standard & Poor's downgrade and on the island's deteriorating economy. Well, the quiet community of St. Elizabeth Village, St. Joseph, has been shaken by tragedy. One of their own reportedly took his life in an act residents are finding hard to cope with. 62-year-old Glenn Hinkson died just outside his family home with severe burns to his body.
The sudden death of 62-year-old Glenn Hinkson has sent shockwaves through the community of St. Elizabeth Village, St. Joseph, where he had just returned after spending time in Canada. According to police, Hinkson's charred body was discovered by officers who were responding to reports of a mill on fire sometime after 10 p.m. on Wednesday. When our news team visited the community, some of his friends and a close relative were gathered at a nearby shop. Although reluctant to speak on camera, several of them remembered the late lawman and photographer as a quiet guy. Many were still trying to come to terms with the tragic incident. No foul play is suspected, but police are continuing investigations.
And there's no benefit to decriminalizing marijuana. That's the view of attorney-at-law Rand Mosley, who suggests that if the drug was made legal, society would have nothing to fear. He contends that criminalizing the drug is contributing to the increase in crime, and it's an issue the authorities must address. He was speaking at a public discussion on marijuana, spearheaded by the Caribbean Community Commission on Marijuana at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center earlier this week.
There is no real benefit of the criminalization of marijuana. If you try to look at the benefits of criminalization, okay, people say that smoking marijuana is not good for you, you shouldn't do it. But if I'm an adult, right, you say an adult can have a drink, you say an adult can smoke a cigarette, an adult can't smoke a spliff? He can't make that decision for himself or herself? No, that is ludicrous. There's no logic behind it. And the criminalization, what it does, we have a lot of young people can't get a police certificate of character, right? So they can't get a job, right? What are they going to do? The criminalization of marijuana causes it. It causes criminality. Of course, the guns that come into the country are to protect the illegal thing that they can inflate the price of because it is illegal, right? And every single time that you see a big seizure of marijuana at the ports, shortly after that you see a big upsurge in crime. Always happens because those people, right, no longer who were selling those little 5 bags on the corner and sending the children to school, the children now can't eat, right? Money has to come somewhere and they end up robbing. And every time they stop it, there is a rise in violent crime.
Meantime, Bonita Phillips, who suffers from multiple sclerosis, appealed to the authorities to consider legalization of marijuana for medicinal use. She told a public meeting that pharmaceutical products have been damaging her body, while marijuana has proven to be a good medicine.
I am now a strong advocate for medical marijuana. The reason why I've been a strong advocate is because I have multiple sclerosis and have learned that the medication that I'm taking or has been offered to me is causing me more damage. And what I've been brainwashed into not realizing is that the pharmaceutical companies are actually giving us drugs and abdicating all responsibility for the damage that it's doing to our bodies. So they will have it all beautifully written up with the side effects, and we as a small island spend so much of our funds in purchasing drugs that they blatantly say that could kill us.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Morning, Miss Hoya. Morning. You again. So you're washing cars now? Well, I can't keep up with you at all. Yes, girl. You know they've got provision to selling slow. And I don't sell nation newspapers at all because them don't sell. So I washing cars now. I like to get up before 8:30 because I can't take the hot sun. You want the car wash? No, not today. It clean. But you're going in very early though? Yeah, I just going early so I can read the Barbados today online before work starts. Right. But you can still let me clean the vendor for the $2. At least it's still cheaper than the nation newspaper. All right. I got a special boo here that I got it shining. Thank you. Enjoy your day here. You too. All right. What that paper is? She can see clearly when the dirt is gone.
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional happenings, former Barbados Prime Minister Owen Arthur is urging Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit to tread carefully with the appointment of Barbados-born economist Avinash Prasad as his senior economic advisor amid the devastation already caused to hurricane-battered Roseau. Mr. Prasad, who was seen accompanying Mr. Skerrit to the United Nations last week, has confirmed to Barbados Today that he will be playing a major role in Dominica's rebuilding. However, given Mr. Prasad's role in the failed Four Seasons project in Barbados between 2010 and 2012, Mr. Arthur has called on Mr. Skerrit to think twice about putting his country's future in the hands of the ex-Paradise executive chairman. Mr. Arthur insists that if Mr. Prasad is serious about helping Dominica at this time, he should volunteer his services instead of asking the Dominica government to pay him. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Keith Rowley says government revenues are down and it's an uphill battle to maintain jobs in the public service. More now in this report from Junie Kanai of CNC3 Television.
Government's main source of revenue, which is from the energy sector, dropped by over 89% from 2014 to 2017. That is from $19.4 billion to $2.1 billion. This, according to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, during a live consultation on the financial position of the country.
In this situation, one of the main concerns of the government was the level of public payroll employment. The government is clearly one of the largest employers of labor in the country. And since government revenues have declined so precipitously as they did, it is to be expected that public sector employment would be in serious jeopardy.
Also giving presentations at the consultation was one of the permanent secretaries in the Ministry of Finance, Suzette Leachy, who says that net public sector debt increased by 241% over a 10-year period.
The debt has gone from $38.9 billion in 2007 to approximately $93.74 billion at the end of this year. This is about a 241% increase over the 10-year period.
On the international scene, the leader of the Islamic State of Syria has broken his 11-month silence with a long audio message in which he mocks the United States and calls on jihadis to rally against Syrian regime. More in this CNN report.
The U.S. intelligence community, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, just moments ago telling us at CNN that, quote, they have no reason to doubt the authenticity of this new audio recording from the ISIS leader, though they caution it is not yet a final assessment. It's a 46-minute recording. It would break, if confirmed, a 10-month silence by al-Baghdadi, and in it you hear a leader here trying to urge on his troops ISIS fighters who, as you know, and we've been reporting for months now, have been under enormous pressure there. Coalition, U.S.-led coalition airstrikes, loss of territory to Iraqi forces, U.S.-backed forces in both Iraq and Syria. So this, you hear the al-Baghdadi urging on ISIS fighters to stand up, stand firm, stand strong in the face of this, while at the same time taking some shots at the U.S. And Brooke, this is one of the reasons why the U.S. intelligence community believes this may very well be authentic. That's because he makes references to events that have only taken place in the last few weeks.
And on that note, we end our Barbados Day morning news update, but there's more online at www.barbadosday.bb. Remember, you can also subscribe to our e-paper or email updates, or you can like us on Facebook. And of course, if you're moving around Barbados today, you can check us out in bus terminals or in screenplay at a supermarket or a gas station near you. Also, tune in to Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Kamar Jordan. Have a fabulous day and be sure to join us for our next update around noon today.